Previously on what should have been a warning to the audience.
If I knew that, do you think I'd be lying here listening to this? My advice to you, Divatox, run!
And now things get slightly better from here. Still watching History of Power Rangers, still stuck on Turbo. Let's just get this over with.
This season just blows. Well, at least a good chunk does. But anyway, we're at roughly the halfway point, and everyone but Justin has been replaced. In fact, Bulk and Skull are the only characters now who have been here since the beginning. And they're invisible! Well, for only one episode anyway. Surprisingly, Lieutenant Stone is happy to see them once they become visible again. Like I have said, it is okay to disagree with me on this. If you enjoy this season, good, go ahead. There are many good things about this season, but the writing, especially for replacing so many elements, is so poorly handled that it's infuriating and it feels disrespectful. It's disrespectful to the various characters who have been on the show and disrespectful to the audience who have been following along to this point. The new team must have also gotten a full briefing on Power Rangers related history and knowledge, since they treat the Blue Centurion as if they've been with him for as long as the original team. Or maybe just more time has passed than we're shown, since they act like good friends, despite the fact that TJ and Cassie are from out of town and never met Carlos and Ashley. In fact, why the hell is Cassie around them? She was on her way to Stone Canyon, not Angel Grove. The next advancement in the Rangers' arsenal comes in The Wheel of Fate, wherein Divatox finds a map to the locations of Lightning Cruiser and Storm Blaster.
Only the two most powerful vehicles in the universe!
Yes, the most powerful vehicles in the universe look exactly like cars from Earth. Okay. Oh, what's even better? The cars are alive, kind of like superhero versions of Herbie the Love Bug. Admittedly, it's fun watching Divatox's forces get their asses kicked by cars, but only because it further demonstrates how pathetic they are. Oh, Lightning Cruiser can also fly, which will make some things a bit silly when we get to other parts of the show. The two cars are kind of like mini Zords, able to help out on the ground, but are rather independent. One wonders who would design vehicles with artificial intelligence that decides who wants to drive them, but what you gonna do? Cars do everything in this season. So after a filler episode where they get baked into a giant pizza...
What?
Excuse me for a moment.
What? You know, a friend of mine recently just got married. She's the same age as me. And I'm doing this shit. A lot of people I know that are my age either making great strides in their life. They're doing all these great things. They're starting new lives with you know girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, wives. And here I am watching Power Rangers at age 25. Let's just get this. Let's just finish this, okay?
The story continues in The Phantom Phenomenon. A ship crashes on Earth containing an invisible pilot, the Phantom Ranger. He foils an attempt by Divatox to rob a bank, and yes, Divatox tries to rob a bank because, as a space pirate, American paper money is so valuable in the intergalactic market. Demetria determines that his power is derived from Eltar, Zordon's homeworld. However, she makes it clear that if he is from Eltar, he'll only reveal his purpose when he wants to. The Phantom Ranger was originally a character from Car Ranger, but not an actual 6th Ranger. The producers decided to use him as a recurring character, kind of putting him in that slot, but sadly we never find out very much about him. although they did plan to reveal his origins at some point. Budget restrictions sadly kept that from happening, but I'll get into that more next time. Despite the two never really knowing anything about the other, there was kind of a romance being developed between him and Cassie. The story continued with the arrival of Divatox's brother, General Havoc. He brings with him a space base that Divatox had originally asked him to construct 100 years ago. Divatox takes her ship up into orbit and docks with it, with this now becoming her base for the rest of the season. Havoc also reveals a giant Zord called Metallosaurus that he can use to fight the Rangers. Metallosaurus is okay, but it lacks the menace and sleekness of Serpentera, not to mention the size, though I suppose the fact that it can work longer than 5 minutes is a plus. After Metallosaurus disables the Turbo Megazord, his robot troops invade it and eject the Rangers from it, allowing Havoc to steal the Turbo Megazord and bring it back to the space base. He reverse engineers some of its technology to upgrade Metallosaurus, but more importantly, discovers information on the Phantom Ranger in the Megazord's databanks, particularly that the source of his power is a ruby on his chest. No explanation is ever given where that information comes from, but best guess is that Zordon probably knew about the Phantom Ranger and had info on him. Havoc launches another attack, and the Rangers try to fight it with Lightning Cruiser and Stormblaster, but they get shot down. The Phantom Ranger arrives and leads them through tunnels under the city towards an unknown destination. And then arrive back on the scene with a set of new Zords. The Rescue Zords. I'm not sure how long these things were just sitting under Angel Grove, but then again, we've already seen the Shogun Zords were apparently a thing. Basically, it's once again the idea hinted at before, that other Power Rangers existed before the Mighty Morphin team. They manage to destroy the Metallosaurus, but Havoc immediately gets to work on a new one. Havoc kidnaps Cassie in an attempt to get his hands on the Phantom Ranger, but Justin and Alpha track him down. However, it turns out to be a pretty clever trap to kidnap the Phantom Ranger. Cassie manages to escape as Metallosaurus 2 was unleashed on the Rangers. They save the Phantom Ranger and form the Rescue Megazord, destroying Metallosaurus 2. In the wake of this defeat, Havoc leaves, swearing to return with a new Metallosaurus even stronger than the last one. I'll talk a bit more about General Havoc when we discuss the villains. Anyway, the Phantom Ranger is dying without his Power Ruby, and the Rangers are unable to locate Divatox's space base. The Rangers hit upon the idea of using a super powerful magnet to attract the base closer to Earth, because science. Divatox, in the meantime, installs the Power Ruby into the Turbo Megazord so she can use it against the Rangers. Divatox is able to disable the magnet with a monster and launches the Turbo Megazord against them. The two Megazords fighting is actually a pretty intense battle and lasts for a while. TJ uses Lightning Cruiser to leap into the Turbo Megazord and fight off the pilots, managing to get down to the Ruby and restore the Turbo Megazord to the Rangers' control. With the Ruby back in the Phantom Ranger, he's restored to life and departs, never to be seen in Turbo again. But it's not the end for him. The season comes to a close in Chase into Space, a two-parter that I have mixed feelings about. On the one hand, the filler episodes after the Phantom Ranger arc were actually much improved over what had come before. Divatox was still annoying as all hell, but it did really cement in my mind that this group was the Power Rangers. There was a mini arc about Divatox trying to make her own set of Zords, but it didn't really go anywhere save for an absolutely awesome penultimate episode called Parts and Parcel that was about Bulk and Skull, which I'll discuss when we get to them. My mixed feelings are about how, well, utterly depressing it feels. Justin's dad is offered the opportunity for a new job, but it would mean moving out of Angel Grove. Justin's dad has been having weird job issues the entire season, most of this stuff revolving around how it keeps him from spending time with his son. The problem, of course, is that it would mean taking Justin away from the town and, like peace conferences before it, away from his ranger duties. At the same time, a space shuttle returns to Earth from the Power Rangers equivalent of NASA called Nasada. The Rangers are called into the power chamber where there's an urgent distress call from Zordon on Eltar. The world is under attack by evil forces, and Zordon asks that the Rangers not come to his aid, since it would leave the Earth undefended. Mind you, the only way that the Rangers find out about this is because of Zordon contacting them, so maybe it was a bit of reverse psychology. Rangers, don't come to Eltar! Don't bring all of your super advanced weaponry and guns and stuff to the planet to help! I totally don't want you to help me! Oh god, why the hell did I ever leave my tube? Alpha, this is all your fault!
You gotta love reverse psychology.
mission cuts out before they can ask any questions, but the Rangers are understandably concerned, especially since Justin says that Eltar is the source of their powers. Divatox summons a monster from the farthest reaches of the universe, one actually a bit larger than a Megazord. The Rangers head out in the rescue Megazord, and in a startling display of competence, go straight for the finishing move. However, the monster simply absorbs the energy and sends it right back at the Rangers. The monster cripples the rescue Megazord, wailing on it over and over. With things desperate and the Megazord almost dead, TJ suggests they get in close and activate the self-destruct on it. Admittedly, this seems a bit dumb, to be honest, but I think it's kind of understandable why they all agree to do it. The fact that the battle is going so badly is one thing, but I also imagine they're still stunned and worried about Zordon, so they're not thinking straight. It's made no better by just how much they're getting their asses kicked by the monster. Desperate times call for desperate measures and all that. The Megazord grabs the monster and they evacuate the rescue Megazord, teleporting into the Turbozords. However, the monster is still unharmed after the explosion. Damn, maybe Divatox should have opened with this guy at the start of the season. It survives the attack by the Turbo Megazord and trashes it, forcing TJ to ride Lightning Cruiser in close enough to launch the Rangers' combined weapons right into the monster's throat, annihilating it. They're victorious, but they've lost not only both Megazords, but their power weapons as well, so it's a bittersweet victory without all the tech that would be, very useful to them in the time to come. They teleport back to the power chamber, but Divatox's forces follow them and learn the location of the power chamber. Wait, Rita, Zed, and the Machine Empire always knew where the command center was, so why the hell did Divatox have a problem finding it before? Now that she has the location of the power chamber, Divatox assembles an army of Piranhatrons to storm it. Demetria reports to the Rangers that Eltar has fallen. The Rangers want to go help, but she refuses, saying they need to stay and defend the Earth from Divatox. Instead, Demetria and the Blue Centurion will go to try to discover the fate of Zordon and save Eltar. Demetria's ultimate fate in the show remains unknown, sadly. Their departure couldn't have happened at a worse time, though, since Divatox launches her attack. The Rangers see the approaching Piranhatrons and prepare to go out and face them. And here's where we really get my mixed feelings about this. Quite frankly, the Piranhatrons are pathetic. They have routinely gotten their asses kicked by the Rangers, including by an unmorphed 12-year-old, and hell, I think even Bulk and Skull managed to ward off a few of them on occasion. I'll get into my feelings about Divatox in a bit, but to put it simply, she's a terrible villain. She comes off as Rita Light, if even that good. Every time she talked about taking over the world, I just looked at her like you might look at someone who just said their wallet tastes good. She's a pirate, not a conqueror. A pirate doesn't go around wanting world domination. She goes around wanting to steal stuff. And Divatox has barely spent any time trying to steal things. I wouldn't even be against a pirate villain, but there's nothing about her all that pirate-like, frankly. And don't get me wrong, historically there have been amazing pirates who have accomplished conquests, but I doubt they were known for their pizza monsters. The ridiculousness of it being her forces that ultimately defeat the Rangers like this is just off-putting. Anyway, during the fight, Lightning Cruiser and Stormblaster arrive to assist, but sadly they're both captured. It's a pity Lightning Cruiser didn't come in while flying so it could avoid the nets, use their guns from a distance. Hell, if they weren't going to use their guns, try running over the Piranhatrons! The Rangers retreat back into the power chamber, unable to take on so many of them at once. They shut the doors, but this just really raises the question of how the hell Divatox's forces could ever get in anyway. It was established long ago that the only way into the command center was with a power coin. Sure, the coins are gone now, but I imagine Zordon would have installed similar security precautions to protect them. Hell, the only reason Rito and Goldar got in was by going in under it. I don't know, maybe Demetria's presence acted as that defense, but Rito was never able to enter the command center whenever Zordon's signal got lost before. The Machine Empire never tried to storm the command center with its much larger army. Anyway, the shields of the chamber fall, and the Piranhatrons get battering rams to storm the doors, as well as climbing the walls to burst down from the ceiling. This is just really depressing. This is really a well-written episode of the show, full of tension and dread about the Rangers' fate. Made no better by the fact that the power chamber is about to be just trashed. The final time we would see the base of operations for the Rangers. The destruction of the command center at the end of Season 3 was powerful, especially since even when it was rebuilt, it looked very different. But now, this ain't gonna fix itself. This is the end of the base of operations the Rangers have had for 5 years. Alpha thinks he has enough power to teleport the Rangers out, but TJ swears to stay with him and defend the chamber to the bitter end. The Rangers do their best to defend Alpha as the Piranatrons storm in, since Alpha 6 has basically the same fighting prowess as his predecessor. To make matters worse, it's Elgar who's leading the charge. Elgar, who I hate even more than Divatox, who comes in, sees the plasma tube for Dimitri and Zordon, and shatters it so that there's no hope of them returning. He is the one who plants explosives all over the power chamber, and Divatox detonates them, leveling the power chamber completely. Divatox's forces scour the rubble, searching for the Rangers' bodies. However, before the hiding Rangers can be found, a glowing head appears to Divatox, reporting that Zordon has been captured. My god, with his capture, they have the ability to become giant floating heads! With Zordon's capture, she's being called away. She refuses, since she's about to take over Earth, but the head tells her that the summons is made by someone named Dark Spectre.
The giant floating flaming head, for like a split second, kind of looked like Jimmy Fallon. Either that or I'm just being delirious because it's like 1:30 in the morning and I really don't like this. I mean, it's almost done, so let's just keep, just power through it, folks. Power through it. I just put that together. Wow.
Divatox, frightened by this, immediately recalls her troops and sets out for a place called the Cimmerian Planet to meet with the United Alliance of Evil. The Rangers emerge with Alpha, and their powers vanish as a result of Eltar's capture. They decide that they have to go after Divatox to rescue Zordon and stop her from returning. Alpha recovers the black box of the power chamber, since it contains all the information they'll need when they get there. They head over to Nasada. So that's the significance of that plot point. And Justin manages to convince the lead scientist that the Power Rangers need to use their new shuttle. Somehow. The Rangers head off, sans Justin, who decides that he needs to stay with his father. The season ends with the Rangers blasting off and the words, "To be continued next season, Power Rangers in space." Let's go over the villains a bit. As I said, Divatox, well, she bugs me.
Power Rangers in space. I remember watching vividly. In fact, I really like how I actually really like that season. I like the theme song for it. I like the way the costumes, the Ranger costumes look. Like, it's very streamlined and very simple, but like really cool. Very sci-fi. Yeah, it was a good season. Good season. I remember watching a couple episodes when it was on Netflix. I think it was like in 2013. It was when Power Rangers was having its like 20th anniversary, and I was like, oh, maybe I should rewatch some episodes of the old seasons just for nostalgia. And some of them held up, some not so much. In Space held up. Anyway, we're not watching In Space right now. We gotta just get through this. Don't worry, it's like less than 5 minutes, so we can do this, folks. We can do this. Excuse me.
I think it's from the fact that she did defeat the Rangers so thoroughly. Bear in mind that Lord Zed and Rita spent 3 years trying to beat them, and would have likely succeeded if not for the Zeo Crystal. The Machine Empire, an entire empire with an army, couldn't defeat the Zeo Rangers, and yet a whiny, petulant, greedy pirate bopping around in a stupid-looking submarine and her hideous car with her army of community theater putties is somehow able to finally do it? It's an embarrassment on the Rangers' record, even if the destruction of the power chamber was chilling. Frankly, what should have happened was that when General Havoc was introduced, he should have taken over as the primary villain. He was smarter than Divatox and far more effective, being the one responsible for stealing the Turbo Megazord and the Phantom Ranger's Ruby. Plus, instead of the more petulant Divatox, he was more calculating and cold, and when failure came, he didn't whine and scream at everything around him. I can't really think of an overarching theme for the season. Like I said, this should have just been the graduation of the Rangers into more serious situations, but instead we had just a weird time. It's cars versus a space pirate and a submarine, and later a giant rubber band ball. I don't get it. The Cars motif just really seemed like a step in the wrong direction, making it feel like they were trying to appeal to the more extreme crowd. A crowd that preferred fast and cool-looking vehicles. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against those kind of things, but when I think of a legendary force of superheroes trying to save the planet, my thoughts do not turn to NASCAR. It's especially jarring when you consider that Power Rangers has always been one to preach its environmental message, yet we're now using friggin' cars to save the world. Later seasons will use vehicles and cars, but I don't really mind those as much since they're starting fresh without the previous season's worth of baggage and development. The Bulk and Skull as chimp subplot wasn't bad in theory. The problem is that it's so easily solvable. Even they could do it. Get Lieutenant Stone or one of the Rangers, grab a pen or a marker, and write down, "We're Bulk and Skull, help us." Instead, they just keep expecting people to recognize them by doing vaguely human things, even though they're friggin' apes and no one can understand them. What makes this all the more annoying is that no one seems to care or wonder where the hell Bulk and Skull are, especially since they weren't at graduation. What about their parents? We established before that their parents do care about them, so why aren't they around to ask where their kids are? Fortunately, the producers wisely decided to not keep them invisible for more than one episode, so we had our humorous romp with it, and then let them get back to being them. When they do return from being invisible, the only character development actually goes to Lieutenant Stone, who expresses his joy that the two are back. I admit that I don't know why he's happy that they're back, given their past, but at the same time, it really goes to show that their relationship was a bit more complicated than simply being annoyed by the two. But this is also the final season for Lieutenant Stone, so maybe that's just the final part of their arc together, ultimately accepting that he likes the two. However, there is almost no development for Bulk and Skull during the season. The chimpanzee plot takes up all their time while the original Rangers are around, and once they return, they act as if nothing has happened, treating the new team no differently than they would the original. They've never met TJ or Cassie, yet act as if it's always been them around. It's a huge betrayal of the development of the characters, who were actually called friends on more than one occasion by the original team. Who are Bulk and Skull to the new group anyway? Why not explore that angle a bit instead of what we do get, which is the
Yellow Ranger's kind of cute, actually. Just noticed that.
two constantly trying to find jobs and failing at them, usually because of a monster or their own incompetence. What's weird, though, is that the shift with the jobs sometimes has them back on the force, sometimes back in the detective office, and other times just meandering around. It's like the writers had no idea what to do with them. However, one positive episode that definitely deserves merit is Parts and Parcel, the episode right before Chase into Space. Bulk and Skull are doing package delivery as their latest job, but the contents of the packages keep getting stolen. Their supervisor suspects that they're responsible, but TJ, overhearing them, knows that they may be bumblers, but they're certainly not thieves. Well, at least not in this season, but hey, TJ wasn't around in season 1. Point is, TJ decides to help them catch the thief. Eventually, the other Rangers get involved too, coordinating with Bulk and Skull in their efforts and being nice to each other and stuff. At the end, the Rangers even save them from being arrested, and Bulk comments that TJ's pretty cool. Cassie tells Bulk that TJ actually said the same about them. Sure, it wasn't from Tommy and the original cast, but it was a pretty awesome moment, worthy of the development the characters have had throughout 5 years. In a season of mistakes, missteps, and meandering about, there were a few gems here and there. Despite my rage, there are good episodes this season, and hell, if you come to Power Rangers for the goofiness, Turbo is all about the goofiness. The music still feels like it's a part of the franchise, and the action is as strong as ever. And despite the feeling that Turbo didn't know what to do with Bulk and Skull, their shtick was still as funny as ever when they actually were on screen. The improved quality of the stories, being baked into a giant pizza notwithstanding, with the cast changeover helped improve the ratings enough to warrant what was going to be a final season. Since it was in all likelihood that the show would be over at this point, the show staff decided, screw it, let's do all the things we always wanted to do but never could. And we'll discuss all that next time when we set controls to outer space.
Red light now! Halt! pizzas were no match for a simple stoplight.
Well, there we go. That was Power Rangers Turbo. Boy, that was bad. But yeah, like I said, the new, or at that point, the new Yellow Ranger, Ashley, she was cute, I guess. And oh yeah, I just realized, TJ, the Red Ranger that took over after Tommy, he's technically the first Black Red Ranger. Huh. I just realized that. And they didn't really make a big deal of it in the show. And you know, Linkara didn't really make a big deal of it either. But it kind of is a big deal when you think about it. That's pretty, you know, substantial, at least for the series. So, yeah, and I know there have been other black actors as the Red Ranger after him. So, yeah, anyway. There we go. There's Turbo. Finally done. You know what? I'm going to keep going with this. Not going to lie, there was a couple of moments where I was considering to just kind of stop after this because I was starting to get a little burnt out. But, you know what? Like I said, I do have fond memories of Power Rangers in space. There's a lot about Power Rangers in space that I do genuinely like, so you know what? I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna watch Linkara, you know, break down Power Rangers in space. Looking at the playlist, his official History of Power Rangers playlist. It's a two-parter, so I'll watch both parts, and you know, if I feel like I want to keep going after that, then I'll keep going. So, yeah. Let me know what you thought of Power Rangers Turbo in the comments below. If you watched that season, and if you're a fan of it, you know, if you want to defend it, please do. I welcome your opinion on this. Even if I won't agree with it, you know, it is what it is. So anyway, if you like what you saw here, feel free to click that thumbs up button. It helps me quite a bit. Share this video with your friends if you enjoyed it, and if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe. All that jazz. Until next time, I'm Marc Aquino. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Or whatever.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Marc Aquino YouTube channel.